Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well, and welcome to the second webinar of Mid-Zero-E. I would say without further ado, we can start with the webinar. As a reminder, this will be recorded, so even if you cannot join now or you cannot join in full or you join later, the recordings will be made available later on for all the people that registered to this event. So very briefly, for those that have not attended the first webinar, I'm Francesco Babic, Senior Researcher at Eurac Research, and I'm the coordinator of this project, Horizon 2020, called Mid-Zero-E. In general, my research area is indoor environmental quality, health and comfort in the built environment, and I deal with both modeling, especially CFD, and experimental work with mannequins and human participants. I'm highly involved in ABIPS, the International Building Performance Simulation Association, and I'm also involved in two technical committees of ASHRAE, so the North American body, in the two committees about human physiology and indoor environmental modeling, indeed. Without taking too much time to this introduction, as I said, this is the second webinar of a series of 3 webinars. The first one was an introduction to the project, to the testing facilities that we have, to the solutions we developed, and in general, to the technical offer of the project. Today, we focus in particular to the real buildings that we have in the project to enable the demonstration of technology and testing of technologies in real working conditions. While at the end of August, so in about a month's time, we will have the third and last webinar of this first series, which will be all about the Mid-Zero-E platform, which you will see in a while a few more details about. The agenda for today, we start with this short opening from me. Then there is an introduction to the concept of real buildings as testbed environments. Then there will be a focus session on monitoring and analysis of the performances in real buildings, including the involvement of the stakeholders and the building occupants. And then there will be time for questions and answers. Obviously, if you have questions that we cannot answer straight away, or there will be not enough time, or you are watching this recorded later and you would like to pose questions, feel free to contact me or the other speakers, and we will provide the answer. So very quickly, just to recap a couple of key concepts of the project, which we explore in more details in the first webinar, but it's worth remembering. The concept of open innovation as opposed to closed innovation. In very short, closed innovation, the typical way of doing innovation is everything happens inside the company, or as you can see there on the right-hand side, the basic idea is that all the smart people work for you, for that company. So it's important to hire the right people and be the first that develops something. The idea behind open innovation instead is the fact that you work on connections, on having the right connections to develop your products, to bring your ideas to the full potential they have. So while in the first case, you need to have everything inside, in the second case is being able to have the right connections and manage those connections, essentially. And this is an important concept because Mid-Zero-E as a project is an open innovation testbed project, which is a typology of European projects that is a bit particular compared with other Horizon. And the idea is to create these networks, in this case of facilities and services focused on the building envelope, on solutions for the building envelope. So the idea basically is that we connect the several laboratories and center of competencies. They can bring facilities, so testing laboratories and so on, and or additional services. And they are all connected in this network, accessible via the platform and focused on advanced envelope solutions. And the motivation for having this project was the fact that in the construction sector, and in particular in the envelope sector, very often there are very good ideas, but they barely reach the market, or they even don't reach the market at all. The European Commission used this image of the valley of death to say that essentially they die before even reaching the market in many cases. So the idea is that the open innovation testbed will create the bridge to make sure that these good ideas becomes products available on the market with better opportunities for companies and society. And indeed, the overall aim of the project is exactly this, is to create this open innovation testbed with focus on envelope solutions and make sure solutions can reach the market well exploited, well studied, and as fast as possible. The last two slides are about the three main pillars of the technical offer of the project. In European jargon, technology readiness level means essentially how close is a concept to a market-ready product, where one, you just have essentially a basic idea, even the principles, and nine, it's ready on the shelf. With the project, in particular with the laboratories, so the red arrow, we go from TRL 2, so just a bit after having a principle, to a relevant environment testing, which typically means semi-controlled laboratories. Then we can move to TRL 7 and 8, moving to operational environment. That means real buildings, and that's the focus of today. And then we have the other three services, which covers standardization and marking, number one. Number three is about support for open innovation uptake in the life cycle. And number two is what we are going to discuss later in more details. So the evaluation of the performances in real buildings, which is complementary, of course, to providing the buildings. Very last thing, as I said, the whole open innovation testbed offer is available on a platform, and this is the homepage of the platform. The next webinar, the third one, 26th of August, will be all dedicated to this platform, how it can be used, how it can be exploited from different perspectives. So if you're interested, please join the next webinar. Without further ado, I would give the word to the next speaker, the first technical session, which is led by Ursha. So please, Ursha, and I'm going to mute myself.
Good afternoon from my side. So I will start with presenting the living labs, and this is why you're all here. So testing in real buildings. So the agenda for this part will be part one. What are the living labs? What are the innovative products within the project that we are testing? The newly developed MISIROI living lab procedure, and then also some case studies as living labs, how we embarked all of this. So firstly, a bit about myself. So I'm Urša Blumauer. I am head of fire laboratory at Slovenia National Building and Civil Engineering Institute in Slovenia. I am work package 5 leader of this project, so where we are focusing on testing in real buildings. My research area is fire resistance of different materials, for example, timber, concrete, steel, composite structures, and it's based on structure level. And my research methods are usually large-scale lab experiments with fire resistance testing. And I am editor-in-chief of Slovene magazine Požar, that is translated to fire. So firstly, what are living labs? According to Claude and authors in 2017, they defined that living labs are user-centered, open innovation ecosystem that is based on a systematic co-creation approach, integrating research and innovation process in real-life communities and settings. And this has a dual purpose. So through the experimental renovation, different solutions are tested, but also various participants can also be included and meeting an experimental setting without financial pressure. So this is what theory tells us, and now we go how we are seeing this within the project. So living labs are here for testing innovative products performance in real buildings, and for that we actually need real buildings that are in a renovation stage. Here you can see already two figures below building in a renovation stage that was also included in the project. And what are we gathering here? So first we are measuring on sites. We are using sensors for before and after renovation monitoring that will be presented in part 2. And we also are interested in feedback from the users and interviews from the installing companies and relative stakeholders that were involved in this living lab setup. So within the project, it means living lab combining measured data from sensors with the feedback with different involved stakeholders. So when testing in laboratories, you just get pure data, but here we are also focusing on the occupants. Within the project, we have estimated 3 different levels of living lab test sites. So if the first step, pre-step, is done in a laboratory, this was covered with the previous webinar, where the functionality of the products is tested with specialized testing facilities. Now we are adding here user interaction. So within the Living Lab Test Site 1, we are testing technology validation, and this is done in lab buildings that are in use. These are usually some homes or some setups that a laboratory or research institutes have, and where you just install your product, it's being tested for a period of time, and it's getting changed, and other products are tested there. The next one is Living Lab Test Site 2, where the potential stakeholder validation is happening. And this is done by the demo building. This demo building was also set up within this project. So we will show you one of these test sites. And the last one, the most extensive one, is user validation, where we are testing products in real buildings. These 3 stages also depend on the project, product readiness level. So within the project, we already had 9 industrial partners involved. They were providing 16 different products that you can see here, and they were in a stage of TRL 7 to 8, so not already on the market, but fully tested within the laboratory setups, and now we wanted to see how they're performing in real building. So they were already part of the project. The next one is the Missouri Living Lab procedure. So here we identified different stakeholders and their motivation, because this environment includes building owners, product manufacturers, Missouri framework that was developed here, and then management team, monitoring and evaluation team, and then other stakeholders. And we also set up a managing this process from building owner application to the Living Lab test site. And then at the end, when everything was confirmed, also the Living Lab implementation. Here you can see a few buildings on top. On the left side, you'll see 2 buildings that applied as a living labs. On the right side and bottom, you can see some products that were tested within the buildings. So first, we go to see stakeholders that were involved and their motivation. First are the building owners that are providing physical infrastructures, so the building for testing, and for this they get free of charge the project. In return, they have to be willing to participate in monitoring and then occupants survey. The next one are the product manufacturers, that they are the ones that developed innovative building envelopes technologies, and they want to test them in the real environment. Next one was the Missouri framework. These are not stakeholders, but it's a set of rules or protocols that we had to determine. So these are standardized protocols that here taking into account coordination, monitoring, and reporting during the whole process. The next one is management team that is comprised of research partners. They are coordinating the process, evaluating the applications, and facilitating collaborations between all different stakeholders mentioned here. Next one is monitoring and evaluation. Here they are providing the technical infrastructure for monitoring, data collection, analysis, and reporting. This is the core activity after we have the building and product is installed. And the last one are the other stakeholders. Here, for example, are the occupants of the building, installers, if the product needs some installing company, some research entities that are supporting industrial partners when developing the products. So now that you know which stakeholders are involved, we are now going into request management journey. So here we want to talk about how do we come from from the company that has developed the product that we find building for them. So first we have to receive inquiry from the product manufacturer that they want to test a new innovative building envelope product. This goes then to the request form for the product, and that is standardized, and this is then screened by the management team. After this, the decision is made based on the criteria for assessment of the product, and this is then sent to the product manufacturer that they have to provide the exact quantities of the product and testing requirements. And for example, if they want to have flat roofs or they want to inclined roofs, if their product depends on this, so they want shaded or unshaded area. So there are a lot of requirements for product testing that are set by product manufacturer, and they're taken into account when opening call for buildings. So all of this information is then gathered and published online. So which products are available, the quantities, the descriptions, and then the building owners that are in the process of renovation and they want to implement this new technology apply to this open call. From this, so from the industrial product manufacturer and from the building owner, we see if the compatibility assessment is performed. And if this is compatible and matched, we go then to the letter of intent that this will become a living lab. Next process that starts then is preparing an offer that is including all the services, roles, responsibilities, guarantees for the products, liability, cost related to this, consent, and other terms and conditions are presented to the product manufacturer and building owner. And if they both accept these terms, the start of deployment of the living lab starts. So this is divided in two phases. First one is called matchmaking, when we are matching products with the buildings. And then the second one is already consulting for deployment of the living lab. And now the implementation journey. So now we reached from idea, so that there is a product, there is a building, we have now the living lab, and now how to actually establish this living lab. First, management team takes over this role, so they're involved for coordination and installation planning. They are gathering all the stakeholders, having meetings, and that information is flowing in direct ways. Then the product manufacturer has to provide the product, building owner has to set up the right conditions on their side, and installation company, if needed, has to be called to the site. This then goes, so we are now covering the building part, and now we're moving to the monitoring part. So here the request for the monitoring planning is sent to the monitoring and evaluation team. Then they ask for additional information about the building and the product, and this is through a customized form. And based on this, it's prepared pre- and post-retrofit monitoring plan, because we also want to have some results measured in the building before the renovation starts. And then this is then compared to the results that are obtained after the renovation. Then the performance starts. So we have here employed sensors, post-occupancy evaluation, stakeholder interviews, data access, and all of this is then assessed, and some additional information is gathered from the building owner. So they have to grant access for sensor installation, surveys, and interviews, whereas the product manufacturer has to perform some information of performance parameters, and they're also involved in interviews. Building occupants and installers are involved here also, as we want to have their feedback, especially in the interviews and post-occupancy evaluation, how they are feeling, how was the installation process. And then this gathered information, so numerical data and some subjective responses from different stakeholders, is then analyzed and gathered in a report. This report is then shared with the building owner and product manufacturer for their review. So here we also are talking about two different phases. First is overall coordination, and then the second one is going into measurement and verification, where we are measuring the indoor air quality and everything that was also mentioned before, and this will be in detail covered in part 2. So here, now going to the results of the living labs. So we have now 13 living labs that are active. They are coming from private house, architectural studio, office buildings, industrial buildings, modular house, research laboratory, and a pavilion. Here on top right corner, you can see like it's a modular house. This is, as I mentioned before, living lab test site number 2. All of the others were buildings that were in use before and then retrofitted during the project. Here we are testing 18 products from the industrial partners presented before, and these buildings are coming from 5 different countries: Italy, Spain, Slovenia, Poland, and Cyprus. Now going into more details that you will see how this is going. We will present a few case studies. So first is Living Lab number 8. It's a residential studio and architectural bureau in Avilés, Spain. This building was built in 1895. It hosts 4 occupants. And this building, when they were applying, they were interested in testing 3 products. One is climate control membrane by Rotoblast, and then 2 coatings. One is advanced functional coating by Tecna. This is coating for the facade, that it's a self-cleaning coating. And then Tecnadis heat shield also by Tecna, and this is the coating applied to the windows, and it's reflecting infrared light. Here you can see some pictures from December 2023 when they joined the project. They were already in a renovation stage. It's a protected building in center of Avilés, so they had to respect quite a lot of demands from the municipality and conservation academy. So here you can see existing walls and how this renovation was already ongoing. And then in December 2024, the facade was already finished. The coating was applied. Here, when they were building the roof, a rotoblast membrane was incorporated in the roof. And you can see also here the windows that are waiting to receive the coating from Tecnan for infrared light. Case number 2 that I wanted to show you is Living Lab number 21. This is an industrial building in Barcelona, Spain. It was constructed in 1973. There are 15 occupants using it daily, and the product tested here is ClimaPur windows by Indrosmat. Specialty of this window is that the frame is made from bio-based Pur material. And you can see here in June 2023 how the building looked like. So they were changing the upper side of the windows and then also the middle one. And then in May 2025, when they started changing the windows, you can see some stages in between, and then also here the new window installed. They have changed, I think, majority of the facade, but this is just for a feeling to show you. And the last case study that is presented here is Living Lab number 25. This is research laboratory in Krakow, Poland. It was presumably built in 19th, so it's 100 plus years old. It has some severe damages to the construction. As you can see here in June, when they started renovation, the facade needed some fixing also with the bricks. They were not in good shape. So the building has 4 permanent occupants, employees, and then occasionally students are coming here for their classes. Products tested here were polymer flexible joints by Flex and Robust. This was used to strengthen the walls. Next one is ClimaPur windows that you see already before. It was also tested here, so you can see the installation of the windows. And then wave shading system by Pellini. You can see their brochure for the shading, but here the windows, so the shading was up. And this is the figure from how the building looked like after the renovation. Renovation happened in school break, so between June and September, and they used some products from the project, but they also renovated the facade, so adding thermal insulation and the finishing touch. So now it's completely renovated. And this would be it from my side.
Thank you, Ursha. I think we can move straight away to the second part with Akshit.
Thank you, Ushka. Thank you, Francesco. So I will speak about how we are actually now following the evaluation of these living labs. What are the criterias? How do we carry out the monitoring on site? And how do we involve the different stakeholders, which you have seen in the previous slides? So, briefly about myself, I'm Akshit. I'm a researcher at the Energy Efficient Buildings Group at EURAC. I'm working in the Mid-Zero project, mainly on the real environment product testing through this Open Innovation Service, or OIS2, which is mainly for monitoring and performance evaluation in real buildings, which we are calling living labs. My research areas are indoor environment quality, focusing on air quality, thermal comfort, and yeah, natural ventilation in the built environment, using different methods like CFD, field studies, chamber studies with participants and mannequins, and BIM implementation and research as well. So why do we need a service like this? As you have seen, there is a need for testing the products in a real environment. So in order to verify the performance and test the products in real operating conditions, there is a need of a service which is standardized, which covers different requirements of manufacturers, owners, different users. Because right now, what we have also noticed in our research is the market is very fragmented. There are many solutions available, but they are in different pieces, and a user needs to contact different people and find their agreements. So it becomes complicated, and that's why in this open innovation framework, we have gathered 3 research partners and 3 monitoring solution partners, and we have come up with a standardized protocol for measurements and verification, focusing on building envelope performance in real buildings, the behavior of the envelope, indoor comfort studies, both for continuous and on-spot monitoring. So how it works, it's led by EURAC. So all the requests come to EURAC first. We have these protocols which are developed by the 6 partners. They are adaptable, they are full GDPR compliant. And what it helps is it facilitates this collaboration between the different stakeholders. So between manufacturers, owners, the different monitoring service providers, and because of different expertise, we have a clear insights or analytics and how to visualize these performance criteria. So first step in all this is to identify the customers and identify what their problems were and are. So we have the product manufacturer or product supplier who's looking for evidence. So they want to apply their products in real environments, and they want to know what is it that they could improve, what's not working, what's working. The building owners have they're lacking data information on baseline performances. They might need to improve the comfort or the health of the building, because maybe there are pollutants inside. So they are also in search many times for a service which is robust and includes the different domains. Real estate investors also need compliance with the energy performance and carbon reporting legislations. And there are also new entrants, new product manufacturers who would like to introduce a new product, as we saw before, the valley of death. So there are new products which are not arriving to the market. They need they need some data driven approach, so they can introduce new products. And because of these real building applications, they are perhaps they can easily convince building owners and contractors to install their products because they can show examples. How it works in a nutshell, these are the stakeholders, or let's say the customers, real building owners, industrial partners of the project in this case, manufacturers, contractors who are looking for monitoring services of different different nature, envelope performance, indoor environment, energy. They come to the Meet Zero platform, which will be part of the third webinar, and uh, s- they can ask for a request. They can request the Open Innovation Service 2, where we cover all these different pieces. It's better if I go to the next slide and I show you the different pieces. So one of the pieces is a very important piece, sensors, where we can monitor the different parameters, which can be air quality parameters, thermal comfort parameters, acoustic lighting, or envelope performance parameters like heat flux, surface temperature. Other pieces can be the feedback from the users or different stakeholders connecting to different systems like the BMS or photovoltaic panels or the already existing energy consumption meters. These are connected to either a Wi-Fi or a 3G platform, which sends the data to a to a GDPR compliant database, which is managed by EURAC and connecting as well with the metadata. And the one we are using is influx database, from which the journey towards elaborations and analytics starts. So in the dashboard, the user access management is taken care of, who gets to see which data, the reporting, which indices to be used, and which kinds of visualizations are interesting for which stakeholder. So all this is covered in the dashboard. How the data management works, imagine an axis, an x-axis, which is a time axis, let's say, before we enter the living labs and in real time. And on transversal axis, on one side we have the building, the product, and on the other side we have the occupants. So before entering the living lab, we collect information from the building and product. So there is standard forms we have created where we are asking the context of the building, what is it the product manufacturer wants to test. So there are these surveys we carry out. Then from the occupant side, we ask information of the number of occupants, the nature of occupants, their schedules, various things which we need to go to the next step, which is defining the monitoring system, defining the surveys, how often do we do, what kind of questions we need to ask them. All this is done simultaneously with different stakeholders at different points, yeah, um, depending on the different context. Then we have already decided the different performance criterias, which can vary based on the product that is in question. Either we test the envelope performance, for which we measure certain parameters and we have certain KPIs. For thermal studies, again, we have certain parameters. We can carry out the post-occupancy evaluation surveys. That's what POE stands for. Then we have KPIs based on the different models of thermal comfort, for acoustics, for air quality, for lighting. So based on the product, you can we we decide which criterias are important, we decide which parameters to be measured, and we decide which KPIs are interesting for that particular building and that particular product. So the thresholds are based on a scheme called TAIL scheme, which is from this paper from Professor Powell, and we are using these thresholds in order uh, to measure the different indoor environment quality domains, which are divided in different categories: thermal, acoustics, air quality, and lighting. And for different season and different building types, there are different threshold limits. And these are in then used to give out reports and compare the performance of the building before renovation and after renovation. So this is one of the performance criteria. The next performance criteria is questionnaires, or you can say involvement of stakeholders, in order to understand their experience, their needs, to get feedback, which is done in three phases. We ask their experience, how was their experience of participation, implementation from the transition from lab to a real setting, real world, and testing standardization, which can be different for different countries. Again, here we have the mainly four stakeholders. For each stakeholders, we have certain set of questions which are pertaining to For product suppliers, they pertain to product improvement, their market insight. Was there a gap between lab to real settings, specification adjustments? For occupants, we have questionnaires, separate questionnaires, which is part of the post-occupancy evaluation, which take into account comfort, usability. We'll go in detail in the next slide. For building owners, what were their motivations? Do they find benefits in participating in a framework like this? Uh, yeah, benefits they had in collaborations. Installers, what were their challenges? Do they need more information from the product manufacturer? Was the training enough? Did they face some cross-country issues, problems? What were the best practices? So these are one set of questionnaires for stakeholders. Then is the post-occupancy evaluation for the occupants. So people who are actually using these buildings, uh, who are living in these buildings or using these offices, depending on the typology of the building. Again, this is divided in three parts. Firstly is the indoor environment quality feedback about their experience of thermal comfort, air quality, ventilation, lighting, acoustics. Then questions about the building and their interaction with the building. What are the characteristics? What spaces they use? How do they interact with the technologies that are implemented? Do they have control? Do they perceive that they would like more control? And then a background of the participant. So this is divided in these three sub surveys, and now we are in the phase of implementing them and actually going to the residents or to the occupants and asking these surveys to them on a seasonal basis. Next is how we manage the user access. So imagine 3 living labs with different products installed, different apartments. An owner of a particular living lab should be able to see the data of only their living lab. The apartment owners should be able to see only their apartments, and the product manufacturers should be able to see the data of the buildings where their products have been installed. So this is like, let's say, the criteria, yeah, the framework we have implemented later in the dashboard. And yeah, this is just a preview, a glimpse of the dashboard where the user access is taken care of. So different stakeholders will get access to the data which pertains to them. Then they enter the dashboard, they can select the specific parameters they would like to visualize, the time period they want to see. They can select different zones, compare the zones, select the kinds of plots which we have identified as interesting, the line plots, box plots, and heat maps, because each of these plots can give out different information. Some line plots can give you trends, box plots can give you a wider image over a long period. And heat maps are also interesting because they can give you um, comparisons based on different times of the day. So the different typologies of plots can be also varying based on the use, based on the requirements of the different users. Then the backgrounds is the thresholds which we saw before, which are also adaptable, which, which can change based on the kind of system there is, if there is mechanical system or natural ventilation, so the adaptive model or PMV model. And then at the end, there is a summary of the a statistical breakdown of the parameters which we are seeing. Let's see some examples. So Living Lab 1, which is an office building, the yellow shaded part was demolished, new part was added. So we carried out baseline monitoring before the demolition, then post retrofit monitoring. In this office, here you can see the sensor placed in between the two working desks. So we decide together with the product manufacturer and the building owner about the location of the sensors, how many sensors, what they should measure. So it's done on a case by case basis. Example from Slovenia of the modular house, we measured the envelope performance. We measured U values of the different walls, different typologies of walls and the roof. For the research lab we saw before, we have sensors for both indoor environment quality and envelope performance. And these are reports which are automated reports generated from the sensor providers. And another example of Living Lab 27 in Spain, which was a renovation of windows as well as foam injected walls. So we were measuring the U values before the injection, and later we have to also measure the post retrofit. This is an example of the window substitution and an example of the temperature data. So overall, this is how the service works. It's we can integrate different sensors, which enhances versatility and applicability of different monitoring systems. It's specialized, it's comprehensive, includes standard protocols and hardware specifically for building envelope in influence and performance. um, Post and pre and post retrofit analysis. The aim is to always have data driven building performance because it provides uh, baseline indicators. What are the improvements which happen because of the product, which can be used also for certification, and at the end the an intuitive dashboard which makes the interpretation and decision making easier for the stakeholder. And that's it from the part 2. And this is just a reminder for the last webinar, which is on 26th. If you haven't subscribed, you can uh, subscribe for it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshit. Indeed. I don't know if you have any questions. I don't see any in the Q&A section nor in the chat. So perhaps I can unmute everyone if anyone wants to. Let me see how to do that. In the meanwhile, if you want, you can post questions in the chat, of course.
Yeah.
So now everyone is allowed, if you wish, to turn on the camera and use the microphone if you have questions. If not, as I said at the very beginning, this is being recorded. Recordings will be shared with you and everyone else that registered after the meeting. It's the second webinar of a series of 3 webinars. If you have questions about this one, you can send an email to any of us. If you want to know more in general about the project and the other parts of the technical offer, so the other services and the laboratories, there is the first webinar, and obviously we are available. And then there will be the third webinar all about the platform, and it's meant to be a very interactive section with a lot of information on how to use it, how to access it from different perspectives. So, Akshitursha, I don't see any questions from anyone. I would say we can thank you, everyone. Firstly, thank you, of course, for the presentations. Thank you, everyone, for having joined the webinar. And we can close it now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.